Good afternoon. Good morning. I'm ready to roll this day away. Sorry about that. Good morning. This is the Cuyahoga County Community Development Committee meeting on Monday, May 26th. It's approximately 10:06 a.m. We're going to start this meeting. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Stevens.
Present.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Ms. Baker. Ms. Baker is absent at the moment. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have two individuals signed in for public comment. The first person is Beju Shah.
Mr. Shaw, if when you would arrive at the podium, you would state your name, your title, and the organization you represent, please.
Oh.
We'll do that. It's a nice little sign here that said the light should be on. Good morning. My name is Beju Shah. I'm the CEO of the Greater Cleveland Partnership. The Greater Cleveland Partnership is the region's business chamber group, and with over 12,000 members, the largest metropolitan chamber in the country. I'm here today to speak in support of Resolution 119. Resolution 119, as you know, enables the county to move into a partnership with Pieces for People to address a major issue in our community that continues to hold us back, which is digital inequity. As all of you know, our community has been rated often as one of the worst connected communities in the country. And while this divide has plagued our community for years, it was really about 2 years ago that stark inequity came to light. For me, it was when I saw many news stories of school kids attempting to stay plugged into their classrooms through sitting in cars and parking lots outside of fast food restaurants and libraries because they didn't have the broadband connectivity they needed in their homes to stay connected. And as the pandemic rolled on, we realized it was more than just the students and their need for that type of broadband connectivity to continue their learning. It was the workers, the strivers, as we call it, individuals who could not work remotely, as many people not only worked during the beginning of the pandemic, but continue to work today to their jobs. And then, of course, our seniors who were dependent on, especially in those days, staying connected to family, loved ones, and friends, but couldn't do it if they didn't have a broadband connection. It's at that time that as the business community, when those stark inequities became visible to all of us, that we decided to act. And we decided to act in partnership with the county and a broad coalition of foundation partners, corporate partners, to start to address what we saw as a crisis throughout our community. Our first focus was on ensuring that residents had a Band-Aid approach to staying connected, and that was through hotspots and devices. And we started a corporate campaign that launched a device donation campaign. Many companies, including Eaton, you'll hear from Terry Schmagala after me, Cleveland Clinic, Sherwin-Williams donated over 14,000 devices to PCs for People, an organization to assist in those devices, enabling individuals to get connected. And then also hotspots that were, again, a Band-Aid approach by which students in particular could get connected to their classrooms when they were still not able to return to the school. From there, we moved to solving the internet connectivity crisis and working with, again, the county, the city, the state, many other to approach how do we make this a sustainable approach for residents, whether they're students, drivers, seniors, to stay connected for learning, earning, and living. Now, in this work, the federal government passed the American Rescue Plan. And the American Rescue Plan made dollars available. They've passed other pieces of legislation as well. I think what's important for this committee to hear is that the ARP dollars are able to be used in communities like Cuyahoga County, whereas the other dollars that have been passed are prioritized for unserved areas. So we strongly support the county moving forward as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the last speaker is Terry Schmagala.
Hey, good morning. My name is Terry Schmagala, and I'm Senior Vice President of Public and Community Affairs and Corporate Communications at Eaton. Over the past few years, Eaton has taken a real interest in addressing the digital divide here in Northeast Ohio. Our goal was to provide private sector support for the amazing work that our nonprofit and public sector partners have been doing to bring high-speed internet to those who can't afford it. And I'm here in support of Bill 119 as well. I just want to begin by commending the County Executive Budish and his staff, including Catherine Tkachuk, as well as this council for showing leadership on the issue. As you know, this internet affordability issue has been with us for a long time, and there is no shortage of ideas on how best to enable those in need to access broadband internet. But it was the county that stepped up and said, we're going to hold an RFP to identify solutions that can, A, be implemented quickly, B, are economically feasible, and C, that are technically robust. I believe that the solution identified through this RFP process meets all of those criteria. And all you need to do is look at the pilot project that the county and state undertook in East Cleveland for proof. Using the same technology that's being proposed here, the county and state, along with PCs for People and the support of some of us in the private sector, brought high-speed internet availability to 2,000 families in a project that cost less than $600,000 and was completed in less than 4 months. Unlike a lot of social problems this body faces every day, the issue of affordable internet access is fixable relatively quickly and at a reasonable cost. Again, I commend the county in taking the lead here, and I encourage you to support this effort. Thank you.
Madam Chair, is that all?
Yes, that's all. That's the only public comment.
Okay, thank you. To my colleagues now, have you had a chance to review the minutes, and is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, I move the, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, is there, what are we're moving to committee items next, please?
Resolution 2022-0117, authorizing a partner funding agreement among City of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, Cleveland Cuyahoga Port Authority, and Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency in the amount not to exceed $2,500,000.
Nicole English with Public Works. Good morning. This item is an agreement between the county, City of Cleveland, the Port Authority, and NOACA. So Irishtown Bend, as I'm sure you're well aware, is a $47 million project to stabilize the bend in Irishtown Bend area. So the county has a portion of funding that those of you who've been on Public Works Committee might remember related to relocating Franklin Avenue, and that's road and bridge funds that were associated with that project. Late fall, NOACA had an excess of about $12.8 million in coronavirus response and relief supplemental appropriations money, and they voted at the board to assign all of that money to the Irishtown Bend project to fill their funding gap, which then left $7.5 million left. So there was a strategy to try to figure out how we were going to pay for the rest of the actual stabilization project separate of the Franklin Road project. And it was agreed that the City of Cleveland, the county, and the port would split the difference. So we are pushing forward an agreement where the county is using general fund dollars made possible through ARPA for $2.5 million of that last funding gap. So this should close the ultimate gap in the Irishtown Bend project for the stabilization park. Now, you will know that the park, in order to then make it into a park, there is still funding that's required for that. So this is at least getting the Franklin relocation should be now funded, and the stabilization of the shoreline.
Okay, and now,
questions?
any questions from my colleagues? I do have a, go ahead.
Tell me, with the stabilization, is this a recurring problem? Does it happen? Are we fixing it? Have we fixed it in the past? And after this, would it need to be at some point in the future dealt with again? Or
No, hopefully this is the major project, right? So this is where the hillside's falling in, and again, the shoring up along the river that has been happening. So this is now the big project to fix it for good. So, right, it's pulling off the pressure of the hill, resetting it back in a more natural way. And so then hopefully, I mean, that's the plan, is that this is now fixed it for good. So allowing that shipping channel to remain open as it needs to be.
Nicole, when do you expect this to begin?
I believe they're going to be ready to sell the project sometime later this year. The port is running the design of it, so we're really just kind of a funding partner and helping review anything that they need, but they're running the project, the port.
You said the total project is 40.
46.5 million. And it's a combination of a whole slew of funding that's in the briefing memo. I mean, they have 12.5 from the US DOT. NOACA now has this 12.8 in. The sewer district has 7 in, 7 more from various state of Ohio agencies. So it is really a compilation of lots of different funding sources.
On this entire construction project, are there any minority participation goals?
Yes, for sure. So because of all this federal money, it would be on, I think, the DBE program through them. But yes, for sure.
I'd like to see those when that time comes. I'd like to see those.
Perfect. I'll recommend to the port that we want to make sure we see all that on our side to get back to you guys.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well, now I only have one question left.
He stole your thunder.
It's all right. It's appropriate for us to think similarly after my being on council for almost 4 years now. There's a piece of this is what the public will see in the end, the park. How much will be dedicated to the park-like improvements for the regular resident constituent to enjoy?
So this funding is just to stabilize the, along the river and then set back the hillside. Actually turning it into a park is going to be a second project, which again, the port is leading, so we're not as involved in that. But that's what they're fundraising for right now. So hopefully,
Part the cost?
I do think they have a number, but I don't have it on me. I'll get that back to you.
Provide that to us as well. Because that's, while we are looking at these integral pieces, the public always wants to know, what are we going to see? What are we going to feel? We understand that you have to do all these environmental and ecological things, but what are my kids and I going to be able to see, feel, and touch? And so in saying we're spending $46 million to get all this done, the second phase is going to be $8 million, $10 million, and the park will be a platform. We need a paragraph description so that we can tell our constituents ultimately what they will see.
Will do.
If there are no other questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, was there a question?
I was just waiting on the vote.
Oh, thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we move this resolution to the full council.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This motion moves forward to the full body.
Just confirming it's the second reading. Thank you. Resolution 2022-0119, making an award on requisition number 6906 to PCs for People, Ohio, LLC, in the amount not to exceed $19,382,136 for the deployment of broadband services in Cuyahoga County.
Catherine Takajic, Chief Innovation and Performance Officer, here to talk about this, and then I have a presentation. Okay. So before we get into the contract, I just wanted to do, hold on, maybe. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what the digital divide looks like in Cuyahoga County. So approximately 18% of our residents don't have internet access in the household, and that actually includes smartphone access. So, I think we all assume everybody has a smartphone, and, many of us carry around 2 or even 3, but that's just not the case for many of our residents. Additionally, the issue impacts our lower income and our older adult population at a much higher rate as well, with over 40% of those who make less than $20,000 not having internet. Oh, yeah, back one slide. There we go. Okay, so more than 40% of those making less than $20,000 lacking internet access in the home. And again, this is not equally spread throughout our county, so I'm going to bring up the map. This map shows you where the digital divide is throughout our county. So those areas in tan, those census tracts have more than 20% of the population unconnected, while those in red have more than 40% of the population unconnected. And you can see, this map looks very similar to what we see in a lot of other runs around poverty, some of our health disparities and things in our community. It's also important to note, in a lot of these areas, there may be an option for high-speed internet, but it's really the lack of an affordable option that is an impact to our community. So you heard when Beju was talking a little bit about, we know why during the height of the pandemic, with everything closed down, why the digital divide was such a crisis, right? So everybody having to work from home, go to school, medical appointments, basic services weren't available. But I think the question can be asked, now that things are opening back up, is this still such an issue? But it really is. It's an economic development issue. If you think about saying we're always in the worst connected communities, that's a hard sell then when you want businesses to relocate here, and talent is a big concern when we know a lot of folks don't have internet access in the home. On a national basis, broadband connectivity is a economic development issue. A 2021 Deloitte study found that a 10% increase in broadband connectivity through 2016 to 2019 would have actually resulted in an additional 806,000 jobs throughout the county and an over $180 billion economic impact. So you can see that on a national basis, but I think also locally. And again, while many services are opening up, a lot of businesses and things have moved things to be completely online. So you can think of applying for a job. Yes, you can go to a library, you can complete your resume, you can submit an application. But the reality is that job is most likely to email you back when they're ready for an interview. And unless you're able to go to that library every day and check your email and be involved in that, you may miss those opportunities. And as well, basic computer skills are just considered part of what people assume everyone has for jobs. So I remember when I created my first resume under that skills section, I talked about my proficiency with Microsoft Office Suite. It's no longer on my resume. In fact, most young people wouldn't put that on a first resume because it's assumed that you have that sort of ability to do that for most jobs. So this is why we think it's really important. And it really is, again, focusing on affordable access. So when we were looking at what were our goals for trying to increase affordable access, which is what this contract focuses on. The first is we wanted high quality, affordable internet access. So we wanted to focus specifically on those communities where more than 20% of the population was also unconnected, which is that map that I showed a couple slides ago. We wanted a long-term sustainable solution that could be implemented. We talked a little bit about during the pandemic, it was hotspots, which while they were very quick, they're not a sustainable solution. So we were looking at something that we could do that had sustainability to it. And finally, looking at removing barriers around adoption. So if we make programs really complicated for people to sign up for, we actually lower the amount of residents that are going to sign up, and that makes it less likely that our program is successful. So we did a sort of two-step process for creating this. We started out with an RFI in December of 2020 to understand what solutions were out there. And we had 19 different responses. We took that information and used it in drafting our RFP, which we released in July of 2021. We had 9 total responses. 6 of them were compliant. And so we had an evaluation committee that included IT experts as well as community members to evaluate and score the RFPs, and PCs for People was the top scoring RFP. Okay, so just a little bit about PCs for People. They're a national nonprofit that started in 1998. They have been solving the digital divide for more than 20 years, and we do have their CEO and founder, Casey Sorensen, here today to answer any questions that you have about the company. They have a total of 9 locations in 7 states, including Ohio, Minnesota, Colorado, Maryland, Missouri, Georgia, and Illinois. And they provide solutions regarding devices, internet access, and also support to residents once they are connected. Just some numbers for them locally and nationally. PCs for People has been helping to provide the devices and internet services to residents in this area for the last 4 years. And you can see how they've had helped connect over 12,000 households since 2018. And nationally, they've had about over 80,000 subscribers. So they have some of the structures in place to run internet service for a large number of people. So specifically on what the recommended solution is for this contract, will allow PCs for People to provide a fixed wireless solution with a network capacity of 20,000 households, which, if when I started here, I didn't know what a fixed wireless solution was. So just to kind of give a little background on that. So what we do is do a fiber up through like the middle connection, and where they'll connect a tower, similar to what we saw in the East Cleveland project. And then they'll complete the last mile using a wireless signal. So from a customer's perspective, they get a modem that can pick up the signal. They can plug in at their house, pick up the signal, and provide internet throughout their home. Now, there may be some that, because of building the materials in the building and the home or some of the line of sight, they may need an outdoor modem that PCs for People will work to install with them. But for many, it'll be a plug-and-go type model. So part of this contract, PCs for People will also provide a wired solution for 5,000 apartments throughout the county. The solution will provide speeds at 100 megabits per second symmetrical, which meets the goal of high-speed internet. Just for context, that's fast enough to allow multiple people to work or go to school online at the same time.
Madam Chair? May I ask a question? On the apartment, would public housing also be a part of that?
Yes, so I think CMHA properties would be actually one of our priorities to be looking at with them and partner with them on some of these.
Okay.
So that brings the question, CMHA has more than 5,000 apartments that they own.
Yes, so, and
Spend all 5,000 units on that one owner, will we?
no, I think we're going to be looking at a variety of different opportunities. There's certainly being a priority, but they've been doing a number of projects. They connected, I believe, 19 of their buildings with Charter Spectrum they have in there. So they have a number of opportunities they're looking for. So it's just, we'll be kind of matching up where is the biggest need that we can cover for this as well. There may be some senior facilities, I think, as well, that are in sort of high-rise buildings that are going to be a priority for us as well.
Madam Chair? In the universe of need, how much do you believe you'll be able to cover?
So I don't know on the, I'd have to look back on the apartment buildings for you, but generally what we would say is the 20,000 capacity covers about 80 to 85% of the unconnected areas that we are looking to go in. With this, we have about 11,000 modems, so that's about half of the unconnected. It would allow for about half of the unconnected folks in those communities to sign up.
I heard you say that you were looking to go into. Is that the same as the, again, when I say the universe of need out there, we may not be able to cover everything or provide access to everything, but how much of that do you think we're going to get a bite into?
So again, so if we look at, one of the biggest areas that we're not covering with most of this contract, and when I go into the map and show you, is a majority of the city of Cleveland, where there is quite a bit of need in there because the city of Cleveland is doing their RFP. So that's where I mean the communities that we're looking into. So there's probably still another similar size project needed in the city of Cleveland with about another 20 to 30,000 households that need covered. With that, this is one piece of, I think, a number of programs that are going on around addressing the affordable access issue.
Is there any coordination in terms of, again, when it comes to addressing the entire universe of need, any collaboration or at least understanding of how you overlap, how you share, how you can...
Yeah, so we have been working closely with the City of Cleveland as they develop their RFP for the funds that they received through the American Rescue Plan. So sharing the details, what we learned from our RFI, and we will continue to coordinate with them and their team, meet with them, I think, every other week on things related to the digital divide, so that when they come to their solution, we are making sure that we're in alignment. But there's a lot of need in a lot of places, so it is building together a whole network of options.
So let's go back to the data for just a minute. The first page, you said we had 98,000 and change of households that had no kind of internet access of any kind. Is that exclusive or inclusive of the city of Cleveland?
That's inclusive of the City of Cleveland.
Okay. Then the next bullet says there were 117 households. That's just talking about income. So the question is, there is also people who have some level of internet access, but it is inadequate because they have more than one user in the home. And once you put 2 or 3, I learned the hard way at the beginning of the pandemic, that when 2 or 3 users are in the house, it drops.
Yes, so that's right. And that may be a hotspot or something like that that they can have internet access to. So there, and we're using ACS, American Community Survey data to try and understand the need of it. But yeah, there are certainly opportunities out there where people also may just use their internet service through like a smartphone subscription, which can work, but also with data caps and other things can be a difficult, doesn't work for multiple people working in the home, for example, or we found, especially with multiple students needing to be on during the pandemic as well.
So how do we assist people who have some level of service but can't afford the boost to the next level?
So this part of what this contract, I think, is really outlining, trying to do is provide an affordable option that would let them go to that next level. But in addition, there are a number of other programs out there. The Affordable Connectivity Program does work for folks. That's a federal subsidy that's been laid out to try and address some of this issue when it's available. So there are options. What we're trying to do here is one additional option to provide an affordable access program.
So can a family, for example, have one of the existing provider that provides a low level of service and then get additional service into the home?
So they don't stack like that. So because they don't add on to each other. So what you would do is, you can choose to upgrade your service with an existing provider, or you could switch to something that is a faster service at a more affordable rate for you, if that's what works. But you wouldn't necessarily, I mean, I guess you technically could say have a couple different ones and try, but that's not normally what you're going to do. You're going to try and get the level of service.
Example, for larger homes in my district,
Mm-hmm.
we have plenty of large houses in Cleveland Heights, University Heights, Brattonall. But what if, for example, the college-age kids who are staying home for a semester, could they bring in another service provider? This is just a curiosity I have. And how would that work when could you have it in one portion of the house for one and
Depending on how the home, it would really depending on how the home's set up. So yeah, so you could, in theory, if they're served to that house by multiple providers, you could have a different service provider on, say, the first floor. If the second floor is in a different apartment, you can switch different service providers based on that.
okay.
That's possible, yeah.
Just curious, because different people have different needs for their speed, and unlike cell phones, you're not able to transport your email address from provider to provider. Is that correct?
If it's that provider is where that email address is set up, but there are a lot of email systems that are not contingent upon a provider. So I may have a email that gets set up with my current provider, but I also have my own personal Gmail account or something like that that is not contingent upon that provider.
So the Gmail accounts are not contingent upon any provider, but some of the older accounts are.
Some of them may be if it's directly from that internet service provider, they may have something with that, but it's not. But many of them you can get, there's a lot of different free email services out there that don't require.
Because we're focused on seniors, you know that once they got an email address, that's their email address for life. And
Yes.
so the transportability of it is of concern to me since I have a lot of seniors in my district.
Well, and there's also ways to do different things I mean, there's ways to work with that if they're having trouble moving from a provider. I don't think that should, I think we need people to work with them on addressing any concerns they have. And we do have programs, the Digital Navigator program I mentioned later that will talk about how to assist seniors.
Okay, so there's a program called Digital Navigator.
Yeah, so we can talk a little bit about some of those things. But again, it's not the same quite as like a cell phone number that you transfer to provide. It's not.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, so.
I help the seniors with that myself. Okay, all right, we'll wait. We won't do,
Okay.
That's a spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so just going back to a little bit about the solution. So as I said, the high-speed access that would allow multiple people to be online at the same time, including video conferencing. Additionally, we'll have the equipment the in-home equipment for 11,000 households as part of the contract, and the total cost is $19,382,136. From the customer perspective, The cost will be $15 a month with no installation or equipment fees to that. The monthly cost of the service is not income contingent, but for those that qualify for what is the federal subsidy, the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is below 200% of the federal poverty line, they can receive a subsidy that would bring the cost down to $0 a month. As I mentioned, the modems generally are plug and play unless they need one of the outdoor modems. But also with this, PCs for People follows up with all their clients with a call 1 day, 1 week, and 1 month after they sign up for service to make sure everything is working as expected. And finally, in a lot of affordability programs, you often see data caps or things like that, but this service does not have any data caps for residents as well. So talking about coverage areas, so this next one, this map. So we really focus on a lot of those tier 1 and tier 2 communities from the earlier map that I saw in the inner ring suburbs. So as I mentioned, the city of Cleveland's planning to conduct their own RFP. So that's why you see sort of generally empty in the city of Cleveland. However, there are a number of neighborhoods where PCs for People already has equipment and is providing internet service. In this case, they're going to be able to upgrade those areas to make sure they're providing a consistent level of service across all of the service areas. So I should note, so these are based on census tract. The map that you see here highlights the census tract. It's not exactly contiguous with what our coverage map will be. There may be some places where it goes beyond this, or I can mention like the one of the census tracts in Lakewood covers kind of what considered the Gold Coast portion of it. We're really not going to be focused on that area of it, but more the senior facility that's in the southern part of that census tract. But as the work begins and they identify the specific locations for towers, we will have a coverage map, but it'll look similar to what you're seeing here.
So I'm thinking about a census tract I have in University Heights. It's up against Cleveland Heights and South Euclid. And so I see it's just south of where you have the green grid at. And I know that it's a low and moderate income census tract. Will you be able to do those census tracts with additional information?
So what we were doing, what we did was really focus on those where the census tracts where 20% were unconnected. So even if they may be a lower moderate income, if they really did already have a high level of connectivity, that's not the census tracts we're focusing on. However, with that being said, it's not exactly going to line up with this. Or for example, if there's an apartment building that may be in something like that, that may be of need, that could be an opportunity for us to look at as well.
It's mostly 2 families. Along the Cedar corridor. So you see what I'm thinking?
Yeah, and I think we can, again, as we're working with PCs for People on their exact coverage map, we can certainly look, and it's not going, coverage maps don't end at a census tract boundary. So again, if they're very close to some of the other ones, there may be some overlapping coverage that goes in there, but this is just for us in an effort to try and show what's available with it. And so the contract will work in phases. So those that are in orange would come online about 6 months after contract approval. Then those that are in purple would be about 1 year, and then those in green would be approximately 2 years after contract approval. Contract is approved. So up until now, I've been really talking about our digital equity work, specifically around the contract that we're bringing forward. But and based on the questions that you're asking, there's a lot of other pieces that go into solving the digital divide other than just affordable access. So I wanted to just give a quick rundown just to provide the information on this. Is not the only program that is going on, but in a lot of cases, the county is not the lead entity on those other programs. So what we've talked about too now has been really focused on the affordable access program, but there's also devices is another big issue. So again, trying to make sure that you have a computer to access the internet that works is one big important thing. And so as was mentioned in public comment today, throughout the pandemic, there was a device donation program from many of our local businesses, and over 14,000 computers were donated to PCs for People to refurbish and provide to low-income residents that were in need. And that will continue regardless of this contract. PCs for People continues to offer their refurbishment program. And Greater Cleveland Partnership, many of our local businesses have been continuing to donate and provide their computers as they get, they're no longer used, they can provide them to PCs for People to refurbish. And then again, with the Affordable Connectivity Program, computers can be purchased for as little as $11 through PCs for People. And they also provide low-cost device repair. So if you get a computer and then it breaks, they have an ability to repair it for you at a low cost as well.
Madam Chair? Yes. How do we reach out if someone needs a computer, or if we want to donate? If the individual wants to donate, do they call you? Who do they call?
So I'm going to direct them to the PCs for People team, who they can drop it off at their location, but then they also have run a number of different drives. Or for businesses, they actually have the ability to come pick up equipment for you. And they do, I don't want to say the wrong, they're certified to do a lot of different things, like, for example, businesses, to make sure none of the data that may be proprietary or private for a business, they clean all of that off. And then also do an e-waste recycling program too, so that they can recycle what they can't use. Okay. Another piece of digital equity is really focusing on digital literacy, which is knowing how to safely use the computer and the internet. So we have a number of programs that are happening around that as well. You'll see in the next few weeks a contract amendment from the Department of Senior and Adult Services to specifically provide some digital literacy training program to seniors that are in need of it. Libraries and many of our other key partners continue to offer training, both online and in person. And then also the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act is actually going to be bringing forward, they have over $1 billion for digital equity competitive grant programs, specifically to focus on equity and literacy and adoption. And so we are working with a number of our partners to be ready to prepare grants and applications for those, so that we can take advantage of some of that federal money as well through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
On the training programs, have you already are you already conducting these programs? Tell me what they look like. You mentioned virtual and some in person.
Yeah, so libraries and many of our partners have been conducting digital literacy training for many years. So those are going to continue. There is going to be some specifically brought forward from our senior and adult services to work with their populations and who they serve. But yeah, so our libraries do that. They found, and what I've talking with the county library, when it's maybe the first program, a lot of people like to do that one obviously in person. They've never used a computer before, so you can attend one of those programs. But once they have that basis of literacy, like basic computer use, virtual trainings actually are something that they're seeing an increase in, specifically throughout the pandemic. So a lot of classes were put on hold and kind of transitioned to allow that to allow for virtual options during the pandemic. But now, again, with things opening up, a lot of our partners are going back to in-person training, a lot of small groups too, because if you've never used a computer before, it is a lot more one-on-one training as well.
Have you partnered with churches yet? They're the seniors, many times I'm finding seniors who may have a computer, may not have one, but whether they do or they don't, sometimes they don't know how to use them. They have sometimes even less interest and less motivated. And you have helped raise the literacy level with seniors.
We have not directly partnered with churches, but more than happy to engage with them on this as well. So, and I think that's a great for the IIJA funding. I mean, they're going to be looking for unique ways for us to reach out to populations. So that's an opportunity for quite a bit of federal funding that we can apply for to run these programs. And then the last piece of our strategy is really on that outreach and adoption, really making sure that when we put these programs in place that people do sign up and use them and we get the right outreach, which again, I think our churches are going to be a priority to do something like that, to really let people know what's out there. So we do have this Digital Navigators program that I mentioned previously. So this was created in partnership with the Cleveland Foundation. And it's actually a single number that people can call if they need help getting affordable access, if they need help with getting a computer, or they need computer classes, maybe they need some senior-specific resources. So this number is manned by 7 different partner agencies on Monday through Saturday, and people can call that and get their services and help navigate what they need around digital inclusion and digital divide. So that's in existence, and we're looking to continue to work with the Cleveland Foundation on expanding that as well. And then finally, I think, as mentioned before, we have the Greater Cleveland Digital Equity Coalition, where we work with more than 70 different organizations from all of the different sectors throughout our community to promote what's available for digital inclusion, to also learn from each other on what's working, what's not working, and then continue to just work together on a lot of our solutions. So we'll continue to do that throughout any work that we go forward. So with that, I would just like to ask for consideration to move forward contract 2318 with PCs for People for council approval.
Are there any other questions from my colleagues? I'm sorry, Mr. Gallagher.
So is this first request? Because this isn't going to take care of everything that's on the map, right?
Right. So I think this is one of, we don't have another large request like this that we're waiting for, but I think this is there's potential that we would want to expand on this if this is very successful.
The targeted areas, what percentage is that of what we really need?
So I have to go back. I don't want to give you a specific
I
number.
won't hold you to it.
Okay.
50%?
It's probably around half of what we need in terms of the whole county. But again, a lot of that is in the city of Cleveland, which we're hoping to work with them on spending their dollars there as well.
Okay, thanks.
For the record, I'd like to recognize that my colleague Nan Baker has arrived.
Thank you, and I apologize for my lateness.
Happens to all of us.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the $19 million, what percentage of an increase do you expect over the coming years? I'm going back to the sheet where you said why this is important. Had we had a 10% broadband connectivity increase nationally, it said we would have led to 806,000 additional jobs over a 4-year period. Do we know what that stat is for Cuyahoga County?
The study didn't look at specifically counties. It was just covering it nationally. But I do want to, actually, maybe Brian or Casey, they do have some work where they can show people that are getting connected do show increases in income and things like that. I don't know if you had that. Sorry, I'm completely putting them on the
So
spot.
you had indicated that, and I just wrote president down and kept following if you'll identify yourself, please, sir.
My name is Casey Sorensen. I'm the CEO at PCs for People. And so I've been running PCs for People for 14 years now. And one of the questions that we've always wanted to answer is what happens after you get a computer? What happens after you get internet? Do you get better grades? Does your income go up? Do you get a job? And we've found that families' income goes up by 15% in the first year after receiving our services. So for every 5,000 connections, that's an $8 million aggregate increase in income for those households that need it most.
That's some significant economic impact. Don't go away yet.
All right. Tell us more, huh?
But wait, there's more questions for you
Yep.
since you're in the room. Talk to us about your mission, how this connects with what we're trying to do here in Cuyahoga County.
Absolutely. So the mission is devices to low-income families. We have a retail center that's over by Slyman's, just east of downtown, and our price point starts at free. And we've found that if you can remove the cost barrier, that's the biggest barrier to digital inclusion. If you can remove that barrier, you will get adoption. Having a computer in the home, people can start to build their skills. You build your skills, you get jobs, your income goes up. And so that's our mission, is to get devices into homes so we can level that playing field so a low-income family can have the same access and same opportunity that a higher income household has for all the benefits that come from having internet and a computer in the home.
The digital navigator number works for a whole range of things, not just for the seniors.
Yeah, anything digitally that if someone needs help with. If someone needs access to benefits and they're not sure how to access that, can I do that online? That's the sort of things that digital navigators do, is anything that you can do online that can help better your life or your household, that number is there to help.
So this isn't just about the PC connection. This is about almost a social service.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, we're basically the food shelf for technology. That's kind of the comparison of what we do. And support is something that was mentioned. That's another big piece. The families that we're working with, if their computer breaks, it usually gets put in a closet. It doesn't get repaired. It doesn't get fixed. And that's what we're there for, too, is to be able to provide warranties, support, and ongoing repairs to keep working technology in homes.
Questions?
What is the cost?
Nan,
you want me to go ahead?
Yes.
I may have missed it, but what type of support services do you give a family that has never had a computer, doesn't know how to turn it on, is intimidated by doing something they shouldn't, and how do you get past that first interaction with the computer, and so they get skilled, teach their kids, or the kids teach the parents, one or the other.
Absolutely, and 60% of our households have never owned a computer before.
60%, wow.
It's almost all first-time computer owners. Many have been computer users, though, so libraries, job search sites, those sites people have access technology. They just thought they would never be able to own it in their home. So we do our own training. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's lots of good training resources in town here, like the libraries. We partner with Goodwill. Goodwill comes into our facility and delivers training. We do a one-on-one device orientation before someone leaves. Do you know how to plug this in when you get it home? Do you know how to use it? Do you have any questions? And then we're there for ongoing support. And the email answer that you gave, we have some email trainings that we do that 60% haven't owned a computer. Many don't have an email address either. So we have analogies, things like if you go to the post office, you have a key. Well, your email is a password. If you leave a public computer, you would never leave your post office box open. You click the log out button. That's like closing and locking your post office box. So our teams are trained to be able to teach to the level where our recipients are at, to educate them in the basic skills. And then, again, the goal is to get the computer into the home so people have that constant 24/7 access if needed to continue to build their skills.
May I follow up?
Yes.
So if they go to the library, they get instructions, they now take their computer home, and they're kind of stuck. Is there a phone number that they can call and someone can walk them through? This is what we
Both the
instructed?
Digital Navigator phone number would be accessible, as well as we have our own call center that we staff to be able to answer those calls and assist people.
Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do we have the phone center number so that we can post it online?
So I think, so we can post, I have the Digital Navigator number in here, which is open to anybody, and then I think we'll have the phone center, but does that open to everybody, even if they don't get stuff from PCs for People?
Our phone number? Ideally, we'll help them if we can, but yeah, ideally our customers.
Excuse me, can you speak into the
We want to
microphone?
drive business to you. We want as many of the folks that are out there who listen and watch these, who have friends who don't have the services, that they push them. Hey, I was watching County Council today and you don't have a PC. Here's the number to call.
In the Twin Cities, we opened up in 2008 with 400 computers, and word of mouth, pushing friends to us, it just exploded. The 400 computers were gone in 2 weeks. In 2 months, we had a waiting list for services.
This
And-
is one program I'd like to see that replicates that.
And now with the business support that is mentioned, we have thousands of computers coming in, and we want to connect everyone in the communities here that doesn't have access. So we want that word of mouth to drive people to the organization to get access to, like I said, income goes up, job skills go up.
And I would say, we do want to try and drive people to that Digital Navigator number, because that's going to help them if they have service through anything. So
This
again,
is
if
the number you really want to drive.
I think
folks to.
that's the number, because again, maybe if they're not in an area that has internet service by PCs for People, that number can still help them find an affordable program that covers their specific household. So I think that Digital Navigator number really is a good number, because it can help them with a wide range of resources that are in need as well.
Okay. For those of you watching in YouTube land, Digital Navigators is 216-307-6990. It's incredibly important if you have a friend or family member that is not aware of how to access the PC services that Cuyahoga County is about to take a look at funding, because we're just a committee, not the body of the whole, that you dial that number and get information. Any other questions to my colleague?
I have one, if you don't mind. Oh.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the schools, and for 60% of those that don't have a computer and now hopefully will, how does the schools interact? Do they primarily use online, or access to grades, or access for parent to teacher? How is that strengthened, having the computers now in the home?
So I will say, a lot of schools, as a result of the pandemic, even locally, went to a one-to-one devices so that they provide a device. It may not be a full laptop, it may be a Chromebook or something like that, in order to each student, in order to allow them to access those resources. But again, I think it's still making sure that there's a device available into the home, because those can be very limited to only school resources that are allowed on that, but can access things like grades and homework. Not every school, I think almost all of them went that way with the pandemic, but I don't know if that also will continue beyond.
Okay, I would say, if I may, that if we're going to encourage homes to have computers and want that student to interact, that the schools should get up to speed too, and try and do the same and reacting back, saving time of travel and better access to parents and issues that come up.
And I think a lot of schools, again, I think those are the services that we saw come in play because of the pandemic that are going to stay beyond it, right? So schools aren't necessarily going back. They still have those ways that they're using to try and connect with families. They may do other things outside of that, but that's something that we think will continue to increase.
Good, okay.
And
Thank
I
you,
think the
Chair.
availability of this programming allows parents to try at least stay up with their kids, even if they can't have skills in advance of their children's skills.
My nieces and nephews walk circles around me with computers still, and that's going to continue to happen, I think. And I use a computer every day, and I'm like, okay, sure.
So this is why this is important, the ability to make sure that parents at least level the playing field so that they can check up on what their kids, because while the internet is our friend and it is a learning opportunity, bar none, it can also be a very dangerous place, and parents need access to watch what their children do and where they go and who reaches out to them.
And we're working with our Scam Squad team to also prepare materials that will go out, we'll provide to PCs for people and any of our other providers to go out as you get people that are connecting, to try and make sure, one, that they're aware of, internet scams that are available to them, how to be on the internet safely as well. So it's not just about here, get a computer and get an internet and walk away, but how do we do that? And then those pieces that you mentioned, what do parents need to have an eye on to know what websites people are going to and where their kids could be in danger as well.
One last question. When you mention repairs and warranties, can you give me a general sense of what someone might be looking for cost to repair a computer and even to get a warranty?
Yeah, we do repairs for $25. If someone gets a computer from us, there's a 1-year warranty. If you forget your password, we'll fix that at any point. If you get a virus, we'll just take that off. We'll fix the computer. If you've broken your screen, if we have the screen in stock, it's free. It's just $25 to repair it. If we don't have it, it's the cost of the screen plus the $25. So we try to make sure those repairs are affordable for people.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I'd ask staff to give a brief summary right quick for us, since this is so comprehensive. Thank you both for coming forward. And Trevor McClear is coming to the podium.
Good morning, County Council. Trevor McClear, County Council staff. Just wanted to remind the committee that this near $20 million proposal is something that Council and the administration agreed upon a couple months ago now. This is one of the single largest investment from ARPA, so this is a significant investment that both the county executive and the county council has agreed to fund. This represents 8.5% of our total ARPA allocation. So this is a significant investment, and it's right up there with the proposal for homeless shelters. So those are our two biggest expenditures out of the proposed expenditures out of the ARPA allocation. This will match, hopefully, what the city of Cleveland is going to put in from their ARPA allocation. They've made a couple announcements over the last 6 months. The prior administration and the new administration has both made commitments to funding broadband in the city of Cleveland out of ARPA dollars. And this is, as council may recall, the U.S. Department of Treasury issued guidelines on how the ARPA dollars can be spent. And they provided kind of 6 high-level categories with, lots and lots of information underneath those 6 categories. But broadband access, broadband infrastructure was one of those allowable expenditures, one of those 6. So This is right in line with how the government has said we can spend these dollars. As you know, we might be attributing it to lost revenue, but we're able to spend these dollars out of the ARPA funds.
Any questions for staff?
I have one, if I may. What is the city of Cleveland contributing?
I think they're still finalizing that, Councilwoman Baker. The prior administration announced $20 million in the city, within the city, but that was, to the best of my knowledge, was never adopted by the council. I think the new administration and the new council president is still trying to figure that out at the city level.
And if I may follow up, what is the total that's needed? If we had a number that said this is what's going to take care of the problem of those not having internet and need it, what would it be 40 million?
But I think based off what Catherine presented, she is estimating, I think she's going to go confirm that number, but she's estimating this is about 50% of the need that's out there. I don't want to speak for Catherine, but an estimate potentially would be 40 million, but I think we'd have to wait for Catherine to get back. Okay, if we were going to hit 100% of the need, what would that be? But during her presentation, she indicated that she thought this was about 50%.
And is that our 20 million is 50% or 40 million is 50%?
From my understanding, and I would ask Catherine to come back up here to provide clarification, but my understanding is the county's 20 million is handling about 50% of the problem. Catherine,
That right? So if Cleveland followed through with
Okay,
their,
I'm confused, because if we have 98 households in need, and we're only taking care of 20 million of them, 20,000 of them.
So I think the point is, this is one option that people have for affordable access. There are another number of other programs, for example, that people have announced related to the Affordable Connectivity Program. It may make sense for somebody to use a different service, such as an AT&T or Charter, and they may be able to do that. So this is not the only affordable program. It's to provide an option that we think is going to cover and be a really important option for those where AT&T or Charter or a digital won't work. And so while I say that we're covering about 50% of it, meaning it has the capacity to do that, but there are other programs that are in existence. And so that's why those numbers don't line up exactly to those, because I think we are still working on signing people up through the existing programs that are there as well. I don't personally, I want everybody to be signed up with whatever service works best for them. This provides them another very strong option at a very affordable rate.
if I may, for clarity. So I just wanted to know if we have 20 million and that we think will pay up to 50% of what's needed, will the 20 million, if the city of Cleveland contributes that much, does that get us to where we would not probably invest anymore?
So I think right now, it's hard for me to say because they're going to do their RFP and their solution may not be this exact one. So they may have some different options. They have some different challenges and things and different looks of how their RFP would look. Part of ours is we're trying to cover a lot of different areas that are kind of smaller areas where they're going to be covering one large contiguous area. So I don't want to assume that that's the end. I think what we've sort of worked with them is we focused outside of the city because they have their own dollars to focus primarily in the city. So we said, we'll try and take care of the problem outside of the city.
All right, but I think it's good to at least know that we're making a significant,
Yes.
right, between us and Cleveland, making these types of contributions, which is pretty substantial, that is going to make a significant improvement in offering this service.
Yes,
Fair to say.
that's very fair to say.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Purnell?
Ask a real basic question to see if I really grasp the big picture of what we're doing. First, you have to have the ability to have access, right? Aren't there supposed to be towers or something? And that is what we lack, right?
So most people may have an option to sign up for internet access in their home. What we lack is an affordable option for them. And so this is provided by using the sort of this solution and creating something that's a $15 a month program that's not based on your income, gives an affordable option. So you may, if you're at 201% of that federal poverty line, you don't qualify for the Affordable Connectivity Program, but you still can use this $15 a month program.
So internet is available across every inch of Cuyahoga County. It's just not affordable for everyone.
I don't want to say every single inch, but yeah, it's generally, yes, high-speed internet is available in most spots.
But we're not trying to, this money does not go to creating the infrastructure to make that, to provide that access, whether affordable or not. You're not doing that
Right.
element.
Right.
So since it's here, now you're attempting to make it affordable for individuals who cannot afford it. And that's where this 19 million goes, to bring the cost down so that they might purchase it or, again, just receive it as a.
Yes.
So one thing you just said that I would love for you to repeat, we're talking about the fact that if they make just this is where a lot of Americans fall apart. They make just a little too much. $1,000 is not a whole lot to a small family, but it's too much for some of the programs that we run. This program won't operate quite that way. They'll still be able to obtain the internet services, which are broadband, at $15 a month.
Yes. Yeah, so that was one of the benefits we saw in this program, is it not being income contingent. We don't have that sort of benefit cliff. Again, so people are able to afford that $15 a month, even if they're just slightly above where maybe the Affordable Connectivity Program will assist them.
And again, to come back to Nan's question around the collaboration between the county and the city, obviously the city is only going to take care of Cleveland. Have we covered all of Cuyahoga County and a portion of Cleveland? And if Cleveland steps in, they should cover the rest of Cleveland? Is that how it's set up?
That's how it's set up, yes.
And then on page 11, we're seeing that there are some municipalities that you've targeted portions of them. And what if there are greater needs outside of the original targeting? The individual mayors can reach out to you to try and expand these services?
Yeah, I think, and this is what we have covered, and that's why we were trying to focus specifically on those areas of our community where affordable access was the primary barrier for internet. And so we did a very targeted approach. Even within a city, you see us cover just a portion of it. But I'm sure, I won't speak for PCs for People, but I'm sure if communities would like to expand on that, they can certainly look to do that as well. But our goal was to specifically look at those areas where we had high numbers of folks that were unconnected, and it's specifically because of the affordability issue.
If there are no further questions from my colleagues, I would entertain a motion for us to move forward.
I make a motion that we move this legislation forward, resolution forward to the full council. Do we need 3 readings or need suspensions?
Yes, we need to do the 3 readings.
With 3
It
readings.
needs the attention of all of us.
With 3 readings.
Thank you.
And if you could, please add my name to this resolution.
Thank you. If there is no further dialogue, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This resolution moves forward. Thank you so much for attendance today. Is there anything else on the agenda? Miscellaneous business? Hearing no miscellaneous business, we are now adjourned.